continues to be the latest as far as Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit to the US is concerned. Viewers, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the United States of America, where he earlier received a warm welcome by the members of the Indian diaspora as he landed in Philadelphia just hours ago. Members of the Indian community had gathered outside the hotel where Prime Minister Modi is staying and welcomed him with Modi Modi chants and some very interesting, colourful cultural performances. All eyes are now on the bilateral meetings between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President of the United States, Joe Biden. And after that, it's going to be a very important Quad summit. Prime Minister Modi will also hold bilateral meetings with other two leaders of the other two Quad nations, the Australian Prime Minister and Japanese Prime Minister. Now, these bilateral meetings will then be followed by the Quad summit, and we are going to be decoding every important aspect of this historic visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the US. And joining me to decode this is Harsh Vardhan Shringla, former Foreign Secretary of India. Ambassador Shringla, thank you very much for joining us here live on Times Now this evening. You understand the United States of America very well, and I want to understand from you, what is the significance of this first visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the US in his third term, given that we are just weeks away from a very important event in the US, which is the US elections?
So this is a very good time to be in the United States, because it represents the culmination of a very long political career of President Biden, who has done a lot to take that relationship qualitatively forward, the India-US relationship. If you recall, it was President Biden who started the first Quad Leaders Summit at the level of President and Prime Ministers. And of course, whenever he had any major international conferences or issues, he always made sure that Prime Minister Modi and India were in that high table, on providing their views on issues that were relevant to the global community. So today, it's important to take stock of the relationship with President Biden, but also to look at what comes ahead, not for any other reason, but because there is a good chance that there would be continuity in the relationship if Vice President Kamala Harris becomes president. In any case, I think we enjoy strong bipartisan support for the relationship. So there is a sense that there would be largely a sense of continuity, and that momentum achieved over the last 10 years by Prime Minister Modi with 3 successive US presidents will continue with the next president of the United States as well.
Right. Interesting. And, you know, as far as this Quad summit is concerned, Ambassador Shringla, it carries a note of farewell too. And at the same time, we know there is a power-packed itinerary that Prime Minister has over the next 3 days while he's going to be in the US. We have an engagement that's going to begin in a short while from now, the bilateral between Prime Minister Modi and US President Joe Biden. And then there's going to be the important Quad summit. Now, many believe that Quad is also looking for relevance again. In terms of deliverables, if you could perhaps talk about 2 or 3 deliverables that India can look forward to as far as Quad is concerned. We understand the importance that Joe Biden has for Quad and why it is important for him as the last one for him as the US president. But for India specifically, given our issue of maritime security, the Indo-Pacific region, what are the 2 or 3 deliverables that we can look forward to?
Well, for India, maritime security in the Indo-Pacific region is very, very critical. And the fact that the Quad plans to expand the Indo-Pacific maritime domain awareness scheme that is currently there, by which Quad partners share satellite data between themselves and with Southeast Asian and other Indo-Pacific partners, will now be expanded to include coast guards. I think coast guards of the 4 countries will collaborate in an endeavor to provide greater security cooperation in the Indo-Pacific region. So that's one aspect, which is maritime security. Take another example of critical and strategic minerals. The Quad is working on using whatever leverages and advantages they have to synergize between the four members to ensure that there is better access to strategic minerals, better ability to process them and share this through trusted supply chains between the four countries. So this is another example where Quad, I think, has come out in a very qualitative way to taking the agenda of all four countries forward. And of course, from our point of view, these are very important issues. There are many other deliverables that are there, which are designed to co-opt or collaborate with countries in the Indo-Pacific, because the Quad seeks to co-opt countries in the Indo-Pacific in its let's say, outreach to ensure that there's a free and transparent Indo-Pacific region. So from that perspective, I think we work with all partners, and the Quad's importance is right there.
Right. Now I want to ask you, Ambassador Shringla, about China. We know that White House has already mentioned that China is high on the agenda as far as the Quad summit is concerned. And then, the rise of China that we are all witnessing, which is, now more aggressive, more assertive. We have seen how US has been as far as the rising influence of China in the region is concerned. So, on one hand, while China has often referred to this Quad grouping as some kind of an anti-China clique, given the current circumstances, can we expect something about China in the statement that will come out of the summit? How will we view, as far as China is concerned, what will the leaders be discussing? What can really be on the agenda, in your opinion?
Well, we've always maintained that the Quad is not against anyone. It is for something. In other words, it is not a China-focused organization. Having said that, obviously, when you talk about a free, open Indo-Pacific region, which is rules-based, international order oriented, then you do have to contend with the fact that you have a competing paradigm with China. I mean, you are presenting one aspect of the Indo-Pacific. China has a different, presentation of its focus in the Indo-Pacific, which is certainly not transparent, not rules-based. And from that perspective, China looms large in any room in which Quad meetings are taking place. Whether you come out with any statement involving China or not is a different issue. There are obviously oblique references to China in the South China Sea, the Taiwan Straits, with regard to Japan, maybe Australia also, possibly even the Indian Ocean. But the fact of the matter is that the Quad will discuss how to collaborate with countries in the Indo-Pacific region. And in that context, as I said, you cannot avoid the fact that China's assertiveness, China's increasing, I would say, aggressive actions across the Indo-Pacific region is one that the Quad will certainly take note of, and also see how the Quad members can work together in countering that aggression. I mean, China today is such a major challenge that you need the important democracies of the world to come together to see how you can contain an aspect of Chinese, I would say, approach towards the rest of the region.
Right.
That is not desirable from our perspective or anyone's perspective.
Right. Ambassador Shringla, one question I want to ask you is on Donald Trump, former president of the United States of America. He has called Prime Minister Modi a fantastic man. He has expressed that, there is going to be a meeting between him and Prime Minister Modi during this visit. Of course, that has not been confirmed by the Indian side yet, but he's also, raised the issue of tariffs. So what do you make of what he had to say, and what are you expecting? Do you see an interesting meeting between both leaders, though the confirmation is yet to come from the Indian side?
Well, Prime Minister Modi and President Trump have a great connect. But for that matter, Prime Minister Modi had a great connect with President Obama. He has a great connect with President Biden. And he has a great connect with Vice President Harris as well. So the relationship is so important that leaders, I think, more or less will come together in a way that is to achieve positive outcomes. And Prime Minister Modi has, as I said, he makes the extra effort to get to know his counterparts well. And so there is a great relationship. Now, of course, President Trump is someone that we've worked with before. because you will recall the famous Howdy Modi event took place in Houston, which both Prime Minister Modi and President Trump participated and addressed an audience of 50,000 Indian Americans. Trump subsequently visited India, and then we had the Namaste Trump event in Ahmedabad, which was attended by 100,000 people. Now, Trump is definitely transactional from that point of view. I think high tariffs has been one of the regular sort of issues that he talks about. But we did almost complete negotiations on a partial free trade agreement during his first administration. Were he to come to power, I think that will continue, and that should largely take care of some of his concerns because we will arrive at a mutually acceptable via media that would promote and increase bilateral trade between our two countries.
Right, and I have one very quick question as well. Prime Minister Modi's first visit to the US in 2014 to the one that's happening now, we're getting live visuals as well. Prime Minister is arriving for that bilateral with US President Joe Biden. How much do you think India's stature has really, grown in the international arena specifically? The G20 summit in India, you were the chief coordinator, was a logical climb, do you feel, in the trajectory, in that particular trajectory?
Well, I can only say that I feel that our time has come. We obviously have made very, very dramatic progress over the last 10 years in terms of our, I would say, qualitative engagement with the rest of the world. Prime Minister Modi is regarded as a global statesman, one who today has the ability to reach out to the Russian president and Ukrainian president equally. Some of his conversations with President Biden will be on the issue of the Ukrainian conflict and how we should work to try and resolve that issue. So from that perspective, G20 gave us a platform that enabled us to interface with the most important countries in the world on issues like the Ukraine conflict. What are the global challenges and what are the solutions to those challenges? And I think India, by its own domestic example, whether it's in digital public infrastructure, financial inclusion, direct benefits transfers, has provided solutions to those challenges. And today, when you talk about the summit of the future, you talk about youth, you talk about skills development, India has best practices, and Prime Minister Modi will speak about those best practices on which the rest of the world has a great amount of interest and wants to emulate. So today, I think we have made that qualitative difference in terms of how we are regarded. President Biden himself has involved President Modi in every one of his international outreaches, whether it's on democracy, it's on sustainable development, it's on climate change. Our views are sought after, and we make the difference on that global high table.
All right, Ambassador Shringla, thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now and sharing with us your perspective. A very, very important voice there, somebody who understands Indo-US relationships and also telling our viewers the importance of this visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the US. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me on your show, Inaji.